All right, then. So you are lying on your back. And you can notice your contact with the floor. The weight of your heels. The space behind the knees. Sometimes the backs of the thighs touch and sometimes they don't. But the buttocks, the pelvis has a considerable weight to notice. And then the belt line, the back of the waist, the space there, and which area of your ribs do you feel making a clear contact with the floor? And your shoulder blades, the right and the left, the length of your arms as they are down by your sides, the width of your shoulders that goes across from the edges of the shoulders, and that line that goes through from the right shoulder to the left shoulder passes through the very bottom vertebra of the neck, the large vertebra of the neck joins that place, and then the back of the neck, the space behind the floor and the back of the neck, and where you rest on your head. And now let's spend a little time on the breath. So make not an effort exactly, but take a definite breath in that you pull up into your chest, and your chest expands in all directions. Expands in all directions. And then breathe out in a way that you know you're breathing out, like I'm pressing the air out and the chest is flattening and the belly is expanding. And just do that a few times, that you are noticeably breathing. Not heaving, but in an exaggerated way. How can you stretch the ribs open when you breathe in, and then let them fold in on themselves when you breathe out? Compress in the ribs. And then continue to breathe in this kind of exaggerated way, but pause at the top and pause at the bottom. So in other words, when you breathe in, then stop the breath for a moment and say, okay, I'm not breathing. And then breathe out. And after you breathe all the air out, stop. So there's no immediate inhaling of air. And see if you can time the breath in, the holding of the breath at the top of the breath, the amount of time that it takes to breathe out, and then hold the breath out that same amount of time. So this is called square breathing. So the length of time that you breathe in matches the time you don't breathe at the top, matches the time of breathing out, matches the time of being empty. And you can just count in a rhythm to yourself. I like to play with my heartbeat. How many heartbeats do I breathe in and hold and breathe out and hold? And sometimes that takes a few times to know, well, that's too many heartbeats to hold. So you have a nice, even 4/4 timing. And begin to notice for yourself in particular what you do when you stop the breath at the top and what you do when you stop your breath at the bottom. There's something that you do to inhibit the intake of air. There's something that you do to inhibit the out breath. See if you can locate what you do, where you do it, how you do it. So that these mechanisms that are automatic that we never think about become very noticeable to you, very known in the unique way that you do. And then begin to breathe with the same idea of the square breath, but so softly that someone observing you couldn't tell if you were alive or not. So the spreading of the breath is no longer exaggerated into the chest and exaggerated into the pelvis. It's more evenly spread. All the corners of the chest and all the areas of the abdomen. And focus on the feeling of the air coming in and out of the nose. And then without disturbing the breath, can you simply bring your arms to lie on the floor overhead with the palms up without disturbing the breath? And notice if you've disturbed the breath, and that's fine. You just pick it up again and you continue breathing like this, and you leave the arms, the backs of the hands on the floor. And for many people, the elbows do not rest on the floor, but the arms are long, they're comfortable. Maybe the elbows are on the floor, maybe they're not. And now continuing to breathe softly like this through the nose and dividing the breaths up into 4 equal parts. Just scan the length of yourself. Scan the length of your arms. Scan the length of your spine from your tail to your head. Scan the contact of your back and how it changed by raising the arms. Maybe the legs feel longer or shorter. And then without disturbing your breath, can you bend your right knee and stand the right foot? So go as slow as you need to. Just keep the breathing easy, unencumbered and unaffected. And the right foot is standing. And notice what happens with the spine as you put the weight onto the foot. And now think of the right foot and your left hand. And slowly begin to push your right foot into the floor so that the thigh bone connects into the pelvis, and the pelvis starts to turn under, and the right bottom corner of your pelvis begins to lift. and then go back down, and do this a number of times, and think that you are pushing, or it's like you've seen in the woods, no doubt, because you live in northern Michigan, you've seen the source of a spring where it bubbles out of the ground. And that bubbling is your foot pressing the floor. And the stream runs from the foot through the thigh, through the hip joint to the pelvis. And then it starts to run up through your skeleton towards your left shoulder blade. And you can, the stream is a stream of pressure. And your breathing is still easy, paying attention to the breath coming in and out of the nostrils. So you push and you release, and you push and you release, and you can go very slowly, but we're following this trickling brook, this babbling brook from your foot through your skeleton, and it has to go point by point over the ribs on the left. Boom, 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 boom. And so the left side of your chest, can it soften so that the pressure continues from the shoulder blade into the shoulder and pushes your left hand a little along the floor so that it grows a little longer. Now, this does not mean that the shoulder blade moves. The shoulder blade is you're lying on it and you are moving over it. So the shoulder blade stays weighted in its place on the floor and your skeleton slides over it, and the pressure from the foot goes into the left shoulder and the clavicle, the collarbone, and into the arm and into the fingers, and you can feel the back of the hand creeping along the floor in the most comfortable way. And the nose, the air is coming in and out of the nose. And there's no, we're not interested in lengthening a lot. It's the process. And then maybe the next few times you could slowly, when it feels like the right moment to do it, you slowly turn your head to look with your eyes to observe your left hand as it creeps along the floor away from you up there, up towards the wall. So this is quite a large movement now. As we add the head, it made the movement larger. Did you change the breathing? Can you keep the breathing? Go back to the breathing being very easy and even in its tempo, smooth and soft. And the movements as smooth and as soft as your breath is. And the eyes, you just casually, curiously look at your hand as it moves away in the direction of the wall opposite the top of your head. A continuous stream, a pressure stream. Nice diagonal from the right side of the pelvis and the sacrum through the left shoulder blade into the left fingertips. And then without disturbing your breathing, just keeping it as easy and smooth and gentle and quiet. Go ahead and bring your leg down and your arms down. And listen to the air as it goes in and out your nose. So there's no sense of urgency, just smooth and soft, and feel now how you fit on the floor. And staying with the breath, that the breath is not disturbed, can you bring somehow the left foot to standing? Take all the time you need. Just pay attention to the air as it comes in and out of the nose. Pause at the beginning of the breath and the pause at the end of the breath. Still there. And then you can bring your arms in with the same attentiveness, attending to the breath. Bring the arms in a simple way to rest on the floor overhead with the backs of the hands there, and feel this length. Now, feel this length. And so now the font, the bubbling spring, is in the left foot. And you can push and connect to the hip joint, and connect the hip joint to the pelvis and the sacrum, and the corner of the pelvis turns on a diagonal and starts to point in the direction of the right shoulder. And slowly you can bring that pressure, that spring, point by point through your ribs, softening the chest so that the weight can travel over your right shoulder blade. And you can feel the evidence of your arm lengthening by the sensation of the back of the hand against the floor. And the air comes in and out of the nose. And now turn your head the next time, turn your head to observe the right hand as it goes along the floor, and feel how this inclusion of the head and the eyes made the movement larger, and quite possibly enabled your hand to be pushed along the floor further and more easily. And the breathing is soft and even and quiet. And this breathing can melt away the difficulties. And then continuing to sense the air coming in and out of your nose in this unhurried fashion. The next time your pelvis rests on the floor, you can bring your leg and your arms down. Again, without, the most important is the breath. The most important is the breath. And now in the same spirit, can you roll onto your stomach without interfering with the soft, even pull and release of the breath? So take all the time you need to come onto your stomach, and the position that you will be lying in will be with the legs long and both arms long. Reaching for the wall opposite the top of your head. Take all the time you need to keep the breath in this easy, even beat. And then turn your head down so it's the most comfortable way. Turn the left so it looks like your right ear is down. Okay, so now just sense the position and the breath. Sense the position and the breath. In through the nose, holding a bit, and out through the nose and holding a bit, but it's the holding is now like a continuation. It's not really like a stopping, it's a continuous flow of 4 beats of breath. And slowly turn your toes under so that it's like a runner's starting block. So the toe pads are down. And begin to push with your right foot. And by that, the big toe and the next toe will push the floor in such a way that your right knee will straighten away from the floor. And there will be a pressure that comes from your toes through your pelvis, through your pelvis, through your pelvis, and come back. And now do the same thing with the left foot, with the left foot. And push so the knee comes away and it goes through the pelvis. Now, let this stream of pressure travel through your back, through your ribs, through your chest, which will start to flatten on the right side. Flatten on the right side of the chest so that the right arm can elongate from the streaming pressure coming from the left toes. And it's a pressure that ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows. So you press, and then you let the pressure off. And you press, and you let the pressure off. and the arm is elongated, the chest softens, and your right armpit can open a little more towards the floor each time. But the most important thing is the breath. Do not interfere, do not let the movement interfere with this calm and gentle and even soft breathing. And then slowly, again, the breath is the most important. In a very unhurried way, can you turn your head slowly so that the other ear is down? The breath in, the 4 beats, whatever your rhythm is your rhythm. Let the feet rest. And then when you're ready, turn the toes under again so that the toe pads are down and the front of the ankle has more of an angle. And now with the right foot, again, press and find that stream between the big toe and the next toe. That's where the power comes from. And the right knee will lift and connect into the pelvis and connect into the lower back and connect up the spine, connect through the ribs, through to the left side of the chest, which can soften and flatten. And the armpit can open and the big toe is pushing the left arm longer. So of course you could lengthen the arm, but it's kind of like pushing a rope. Like how do you push a rope to find the path that pushes it straight along the floor? A long, sturdy rope. And if there's a moment of distress, focus on the breath. Make it even, make it calm, make it soft, make it more fluid, more invisible to someone observing you. You were hiding in the woods and you didn't want the predator to hear you breathing. And yet you're still getting enough air. There's plenty of air. Our lungs are so large that if we cut them open and laid them out flat, they would cover an entire football field. And now slowly, again, without interfering with your breath, can you come onto your back? Take all the time you need. The most important thing is the softness of the breath. and the 4 measures that you're counting out. So the movement is really kind of like background noise. It doesn't matter what you do, you've got this even beat of breath. Now, can you stand both your legs, both your feet? It's just background noise to the breath. And bring both arms long on the floor. And feel your length. Feel the length of the spine from the tail all the way through the head. And feel the length of each arm. And now can you push with both bubbling wells? There's 2 well springs that bubble out of the ground and they connect into the thighs and the hip joints and the pelvis. And the bottom of the pelvis starts to come away from the floor just enough that the pressure can flow through your spine, over your shoulder blades, and elongate both your arms without disturbing the breath. So you push the arms are pushed away by the weight of the body. So the pelvis will lift, will curl away from the floor a bit so that you can bring more weight behind the chest. And feel the arms pressed away like 2 sturdy ropes. And there's the breathing. Keep the smooth flow of the breath, pushing and elongating the arms, pushing them like 2 ropes, feeling them creep along the floor, feeling if you are the same on the right and on the left, and if here you could do some work through self-observation. How could you elongate the right and the left sides equally? The same amount, symmetrically. How far is not important. How can you distribute the weight of the body, the weight of the water as it flows through yourself and over the shoulder blades? Symmetrically. Even if that means that the movement becomes much smaller. Be aware of the air coming in and out of the nose, the softness of your gaze, the light in the room. If the eyes are open, the eyes can be open or closed. And you might feel a spontaneous intake of breath, like a sigh, and that's fine. You can allow that to happen. That's a reset happening somewhere in your system. Creeping along the floor. And then again, the breathing, The most important thing, the feeling of the air coming in and out of the nostrils. Can you bring yourself once more onto your belly with your arms long overhead? And the movement is just background noise, like you do this all the time. You know how to roll onto your belly. And you keep the breathing as hold that as the most precious. And now turn the toes under. Again, both toes, both feet. And now symmetrically push through the big toes and the toes next to them, I guess the index toes, so that both knees lift away from the floor and you press through the skeleton, press through, flow through the pelvis, flow up through the ribs, flow, 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 and lift the head just enough so that you can see your hands creep along the floor. And as you press, you may need to lift the pelvis so that you can bring the weight of the body more onto the front of the chest and feel the chest flattening out against the floor. The next time you lift, you'll lift the knees, the pelvis, the body weight will go up and onto the chest so that you can flatten it, and lift the head and look forward at the arms. Help the chest flatten. Think of the armpits going closer to the floor and opening. And just the most important thing is the breathing. The breathing will melt. So the movement can become softer. Lift the head just a tiny bit. Think that somebody came and lifted your pelvis and pushed it so that the weight came onto your chest, and you just kind of get your chin out of the way. Get your chin and nose out of the way. And look forward at the wall, but bring, like somebody could come and stand their foot on your upper back softly, and it presses your chest into the floor, the area in between the collarbones, the upper ribs, the very top there. And the breathing. And then without disturbing the breath, bring yourself back onto your back for a rest. And hold the breath as precious. And continue with the breathing, divided into its 4 parts, but unnoticeably so, just a flow of continuous air through the nostrils, in and out. And there's a quietness at the top and a quietness at the bottom. And then one last time, just as kind of background noise, bring both your feet to standing And with your hands, take hold of your hair behind and above the ears. Behind and above the ears. Keep the breathing with its steady beats. And take hold of your hair in your fists and push with your feet. Turn the pelvis under and pull the head away from the pelvis and away from the floor, and then take the chin down. So you're using your hair to pull your skull, to pull your spine long. Bring your head away from the floor, push with the feet and turn the pelvis under and lift the head. Turn the pelvis towards the head. Press the pelvis and lift the head, pull your hair and lift the head, lift it so you can see the in between the knees. Yes. Feel the elongation, then set the head down each time. So you're just giving yourself a little more length from your hair. But the breath is not disturbed. That's lovely. Somebody pushed your pelvis, and then that push came like a wave through the head, which you're taking care of with your hands. And then lengthen down everything without disturbing the breath. So I'm going to leave you so that and the only thing to do for the next few minutes, and it might be that as you get up and roll up your mat and put away your towel and go to the bathroom and sit down on the toilet and come back up and pull up your pants, all these things that you do, perform the actions like background noise and continue to breathe like this for a few more minutes. And you might find that you want to kind of stay in this quiet, nonverbal place, and you might find that the breath continues in this quiet way for quite some time, all on its own, almost as though you've trained you've trained this animal inside of yourself. And I'm going to leave you here so we don't break the spell. Okay, so I bid you adieu. The breath is something you can bring into any situation.